This is GabNet, the Great American Broadcast Network, now in its 8th year of talk like you've never heard it before.
Hey everybody, in red it's me, it's Alex, and in yellow it's what we call the Ramble, and we go till midnight tonight here in the United States of America. And let me turn on my lights. Oh, there we are. Now you can see me. There's always something I forget on a Wednesday. Hi, how are you? Good to see you. Good to see that you're enjoying our commercials, our promos. Those aren't commercials. If they were commercials, I'd be making money, okay? I'd be making a quick buck. But I'm not making a quick buck here, okay? I've got my glasses on right now. Gee, I can see everything really clearly. I should wear them all the time. Anyway, let me see here. We got to bring in our old friend who we talk to once a week. He's looking very orange tonight. I don't know why.
Hey, how you doing?
How come you're looking so orange? Oh, there you are. Now you're okay.
Yeah, I must have been too close to the light.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Go closer to the light. Let's see again. No, you're not. You're fine.
All right. Well, maybe I'm dressing more like Trump these days.
You're dressing more like Trump these days?
If I'm getting orange.
I wouldn't do that.
Well, it's, you know, the orange look, it's hot.
Yeah, it's hot.
How you doing?
I'm doing okay, you know. I have breathing problems today. It's cold and it's wet, and I'm, you know, it's just my when I was a kid I had asthma. And it
is that respiratory thing running around New York like it is California?
Well, I don't know, but I've had something for a couple of weeks now. It's gone away every now and then for a day or two and then comes back. And I think it has to do with all the work they're doing on the building. Like right now, on this floor, every day they bring up tons of bricks with tons of dust with the bricks.
So they're adding bricks, or they're
up on the roof or something like that.
Yeah.
So they're hauling them up to the roof, and they're using our little lobby here on this 8th floor to send them up, okay? Well,
yeah.
You know, that can't be helping my breathing, all that dust, you know. So I think that's what it is, and I don't know what to do about it. So,
well,
you know.
I guess you could wear a mask.
I guess I could, but, you know, I'm home. I'm indoors. What do I need to wear
try it for a couple of days.
For?
Try it for a couple of days, and if that doesn't work, you said you had one of those room deionizers, or
no? I have a air purifier. I tried that. That doesn't help, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't know. I mean, I'm dying. I don't have any coughing, and I don't have any mucus or anything like that. So I don't think it's any kind of lung problem. Plus, I had my lungs looked at.
Checked.
Well, when they did the CT scan, they did my lungs. I know they did my lungs because they found a couple of dots on my lungs, which are called they're nodes.
Nodes, yeah.
Nodes, yeah. And one of them showed up about 6 or 7 years ago on a CT scan and hasn't grown at all. Okay.
Could that have been attributed to the smoking?
Could have been attributed to a bad cold, you know, whatever. Anyway, and then the newer one is a kind that very rarely, if ever, turns into cancer, and it was a very small one. So that's all that I had. They looked at my lungs; they didn't see anything, you know. So I don't think it's my lungs. I just think it's, you know, it's the weather and it's the building they're doing here, you know.
Yeah, I'm surprised you don't, you know, with them hitting. What's the actual thing that they're doing to the grout between the bricks?
No, that's what's doing it.
Yeah, what's that called? Pinning,
it's called pointing.
Pointing.
And what they do is they drill out the old grout between the bricks and put in new grout. But it's got silica in it.
Yeah.
And plus, this grout, I guess, has got to be almost 100 years old or something like that. So who knows what they put in it at that time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
they
all this stuff, and it's just the whole building is full of it. And if you look out at my sills, on my window sills, there's all this grout.
And you open your windows so the wind will blow whatever that is on the sill.
Well, we don't open that side, but it can still get in. I mean, these are not the most secure windows. Not that I want to let any burglar know that, but you know.
Well, if he's going to get up 8 floors, he can have whatever you got.
That's right.
You know, if he's going to climb, like what they call a second story man.
Anyway, I'm not wheezing or anything like that. It just feels a little heavy, you know. Man, so I've been living with that. Hey, listen, I got to mention something here tonight, and I hate to mention it. Jack Bishop will not be doing his show for
How's he feeling?
At least the next.
Is it the computer or is it his health?
Well, it's a little bit of both. The computer I can solve. I'll send him one of mine. You know, that's no problem.
Idea.
I'll send him your old one. Remember the one you sent me?
Yeah, the Mac. That was a good one.
The Mac Mini. It's fairly fast as Mac Minis go. But anyway, that's not. There are a lot of other problems he has. Some of which I'm sure you wouldn't want me to share with you. The one that I'm going to share with you is that he has certain health problems. You know, that are making it very difficult, and because he's had trouble with this equipment breaking and everything like that, the stress is even exacerbating the problem.
Do you think sending him a Mac and putting him on a new environment is going to reduce his stress?
Well, I think it will. At least I'm going to do my bit to try and do it.
There's a learning curve. When I went from an IBM type machine to a Mac.
This is going to be very simple. I'm going to put all the programs in it that he needs to do his show, which is about 3 programs. Okay, and all he has to do is just click on those. You know, he should be okay with it.
Yeah, just give him a no-brainer, you know, step 1, step 2, step 3.
Come on, what's a more confusing computer, a PC or Mac?
Well, once you learn the Mac, it's easier than anything.
The learning curve on the Mac is like about this, where the learning curve on a PC is like I can't even fit it in the frame.
Yeah.
You know. So anyway, he's not going to be on for about a month, but I want you to know I told him you're still a member of the Gabnet family, and I'll play his show every night. I'll play a different old show of his, and you know, when he's ready to come back on and his health is improving, you know, he's got quite a few things going bad for him. He had that
he's got diabetes.
He had that whole thing with his back. He then he had trouble urinating, so they sent him to a hospital, and they put a catheter in him and sent him home. And that catheter's been in him for about 2 weeks now, because
that's the longest you can have it.
Because he can't. He tried to make an appointment with a urologist, and they couldn't see him for 2 weeks. You know,
he should go to the emergency room. He shouldn't have it.
He was in the emergency room.
Yeah, but he should go back to have them remove it.
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, I'm not a doctor, and but you know, I agree with you. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, he should have been able to see a urologist the next day. If he's got a catheter in him, somebody should be looking at him the next day.
At least within 10 days. You know, when I had
I mean, you should know. You look, when there is an emergency like that, and when you can't pee, you should be able to see a urologist immediately. A urologist should say, "Get your ass down here right now." You know, Marjorie, she had some troubles with her breathing, and she was worried about it. So my doctor said, well, why don't we send you to a pulmonologist? So he gave her the name of a pulmonologist, and she calls up the pulmonologist's office and makes an appointment for 2 months later. Now, suppose she was dying of whatever this thing was, you know?
Well, she should have gone to a philatelist.
A philatelist?
Isn't that somebody that collects stamps?
A philatelist.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
You get an appointment with them faster than the pulmonologist.
Yeah, you get an appointment. You should be making an appointment with me. I mean, she can see me faster than, you know.
Oh, just have her talk to Alan.
Yeah. Yeah,
and he's cheap, and he doesn't even have to take insurance.
that's right. That's right. But I mean, so it was. He's going to be out. He said anywhere from 3 weeks to a month, and there are other problems too. But I am not allowed to talk about them.
I understand.
And they're more personal things with him than medical. So
yeah. Did he get somebody pregnant?
Yes, right. And he's taking her down to the abortion clinic, and then he's going to run for office and say that he doesn't believe in abortion.
Walker's paying for it.
Huh? Yeah.
Walker's going
to pay for it. Well, we did pretty well down there in Georgia.
Yeah,
and actually, as the votes finally came in at the end, he won by a handy amount of people.
100,000.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Yeah, well, Warnock got with 99% of the vote in. Warnock got 51.4. Walker got 48.6, and there was about a little less than 100,000 votes separating them based on that statistic. And but the funny thing is,
it wound up being something like 53% to 47, I think, in the end.
That was with 99% in. That was what I picked up off the web. The thing is, it wasn't funny, but there was only like 3 areas: Atlanta, Macon, and one other small, Athens, Georgia, where the college is, went for Warnock, and the rest of the state went for Walker. Yeah. Now, because the population centers in those areas are denser than they are in other areas, that was what gave him the 90-some-odd thousand.
Well, you gotta understand that those rural people. I mean, if you look at the map, it's mostly red.
Yeah.
But those are counties with 5 people in them and no teeth. I mean.
Oh yeah. Well, I understand. Hey, I listened to your Monday show and it got very political. Matter of fact, I got triggered and I had to sit in the corner and shiver for a while and think of my pronouns. It was so political,
Why was it so political? It wasn't that political.
Well, you started talking about politics on Monday.
Well, we were getting close to the
and day. I got frightened, so.
And you got Mandy, who lives in Georgia, so that was her home turf, as it were.
Well, some people would say, you call that living?
Yeah.
They raided 4 more of Trump's properties, and they found a storage locker.
No, they didn't raid it.
Storage locker.
They didn't raid it. This was
another.
No, they didn't. Phil, they didn't raid it.
Well, they searched them.
No, they were searched by Trump's own people.
Okay, and they found a top secret document.
They found a folder of top secret documents.
No, in there
was more than one document. What?
In there was a menu from Kentucky Fried Chicken with the secret recipe ingredients.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry. You were going for a joke, and I was ruining
Yeah. Let's see. Do I have any other jokes? No.
Or things that purport to be jokes.
Yeah. Hey, Kathy. Well, here's a joke. Kathy Griffith blames Musk for the rise in hate as she beheads an effigy of Trump with blood dripping out of its neck. But
you blame Trump for what? What?
Kathy Griffin blames Elon Musk, for the rise in hate as she's had beheaded an effigy of Trump. But
that was an art piece. But she was banned from Twitter.
Yeah,
and she's been allowed back on now.
It doesn't matter because Musk is no longer the richest man in the world. You know what made Musk made spaceships that are going to the moon and Mars. He has Neuralink, which will help people get over diseases and unless
you're a chimpanzee, in which case you're dead.
Yeah, but you know who the richest man in the world is today?
Who?
Arnault, who is owns Louis Vuitton. So making plastic purses.
Wait a minute. Hold on a second. I don't believe you. Where did you get that information?
I get it off the news.
Richest
So Louis Arnaud. No, it's not Louis Arnaud. It's Arnaud. Arnault, I think, who owns Louis Vuitton, and they own a bunch of other brands.
It says here, Elon Musk, owner of Tesla and SpaceX company, who is of American origin, comes in first as the world's richest man in the world today.
No, he's second.
He's not.
I just read it.
Okay, who is the number one richest man in the person in the world? Elon Musk. Behind Musk is the Louis Vuitton chair. Wait a moment, the LVMH chair, and CEO Bernard Arnault.
Yes, is the richest man in the world.
No, he's the second. Where did you read this, Phil?
I don't remember. I was pouring through, just general news.
No, I think Musk is still. He has a net worth right now at this moment of $203 billion.
I don't. The headline was that he was no longer the richest man in the world. But
here, there's several. Elon Musk is first. Okay.
Yeah.
Bernard Arnault is second. How did he make them? How much money did he make off of purses?
I thought it was 145 billion.
Well,
because Tesla lost a big percentage of its stock price either yesterday or today, and that's what they say dropped them into the second.
Well, okay, if that's the reason for it, it'll go back up, and then Arnault will be in the second place again.
Yeah,
but Arnault doesn't. Even if you take away the money that Musk spent for Tesla, for Twitter, and then take away the downplaying of Tesla's stock, which is kind of stupid of people to sell their stock.
It was significant, though.
Yeah, but they shouldn't have. I don't know why the stock would drop. I mean, people are being stupid because he just showed his trucks, which are amazing. They are just amazing.
Did you hear?
They get 500 miles to the charge, and the charge gets up to 70% in 30 minutes.
What happens once they put a trailer with 80,000 pounds on it?
They have done that.
But
they've done that, and they've taken it up the grade to Lake Tahoe, up in the Sierra. And there's one shot. The thing does not lose power at all, and in fact, it showed him next to another truck passing it.
Wow. Well, let's see. Jack Dorsey, if you're still talking about Twitter, he says Musk should release everything without a filter. And
I'm not against that. Okay, I honestly believe if you say, there are limitations. There are things you're not going to do because they will hurt people. Okay.
National security.
Well, I wouldn't want to see somebody purporting certain medicines and stuff, which if you took them would kill you. There's a cure for cancer or whatever. You got to be careful about that stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's that terrible. I think they should be very careful about.
Yeah.
But they aren't. So.
Yeah. Well.
I just think that if you're going to have something that says, "Oh, say what you feel," this is
well, what you feel is different than what is truth.
Well, look, you can tell non-truths too. But people have to know that what they're reading is not necessarily true. Don't trust anything you read here. But
it should be labeled with opinion.
The trouble is more the people who read this stuff and then take it as being gospel because it's on the web that are stupid and causing it to be dangerous.
You remember when they said it's on TV, so it must be true?
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing. It's the same thing because if it's on Fox, it's not necessarily true.
Yeah, well, or MSNBC.
I'll agree with you on that one.
But so you're saying that when Alex Jones says that he doesn't like Hitler, it's not true?
That he doesn't like Hitler.
Right.
No, that's the first time I've agreed with Alex Jones in I don't know how long.
Yeah.
Now, did you see him with
Kanye and
Kanye?
the other guy, Fuentes.
He was not necessarily agreeing with these guys. You know,
he was afraid he was going to get stabbed.
Well, I mean, listen, I don't know what's with these guys like Kanye or even Trump, who doubled
Kanye's
down.
mentally ill.
Wait a minute, so's Trump. I mean, look at what he's done. He's going to suspend the Constitution. You know, I mean, and then he invites Kanye. He invites Kanye and this Nazi lover to dinner at Mar-a-Lago, and then he had a what is it? Just the other day, he invited some kind of white supremacist, to Mar-a-Lago. I mean, he's doubling down, just like Kanye doubles down, just like a lot of these guys double down, and you know, come on,
Trump was being attacked from the moment he announced that he was running for president. I don't believe that there's any way that I'm not that strong a person, but I don't believe there's any way that I could have withstood the constant barrage of attacks that came against Trump and his family. At some point you're going to break. And
wait a minute. You don't think that Obama didn't go through that?
Nothing like
that. Absolutely. Even more so because he was black.
Yeah, they just asked him to show his birth certificate.
No.
Other than that.
No, but I mean, believe me, all people who are president get these things.
I think people liked Obama in general.
We liked Obama. There are people who like Trump.
Yeah, well, people love Trump.
No, just that what do you mean people love Trump? You're saying that as a general thing. No, and I'm sorry.
33 to 39% of the people really like Trump. Now, in the last several weeks...
That's not a lot when you're president.
Well, you think Biden has much more than that?
He has about 48, something like that, 43. Something.
Oh, right now, because they're riding high on the
economy's gotten better. Gas prices are down. What are your gas prices these days?
$5.50 for regular.
That's California, I think, because you got all those taxes they throw on there. But supposedly the national average is down around $3.30.
Yeah. Well, if things are costing more money, even the crypto billionaires are committing suicide. Or no, they're actually not committing suicide. They're just dying. Did you know that there's a couple of the big crypto guys that started different coins? Two of them are found dead. One was like 39 years old. And they hadn't announced any cause.
I'm not saying I feel sorry for them.
No. Yeah. And what's his name? Ted Cruz. This is a very unfortunate thing, but he has a 14-year-old daughter that must be in a great deal of pain because they say that she attempted to commit suicide. Now, maybe it was just
if I were Ted Cruz's kid, I'd want to commit suicide
in all
too.
Seriousness.
All seriousness, if I were his kid, I would want to commit suicide.
He even went with his kids to Mexico just because he promised. I mean, it's tough being a dad. It really is. You haven't had to experience that, but it is not easy raising kids, and they, when 14-year-old girls, they're going through, and even guys, they're going through so much stuff at that age.
Why don't you decide not to run for political office because you care more about your family than being in office?
Oh, believe me, I will not be running for political office unless it's for Carpet King. But Romney.
Well, wait a minute. Let's do it right now. We now make you Carpet King,
or Emperor. Maybe I'll be the Carpet Emperor.
Well, come on, you can't settle for king. You got to be emperor.
Well, if it was South America, I'd be Alexa Gente Carpet. So, I don't pick the coffee beans until it's time. Yeah. Romney, I just found out, is going to run for president. Now, that's called recycling the old stuff, but he wants to pick possibly Condoleezza Rice as his VP.
Well, maybe has anybody asked Condoleezza?
I think so. She's under consideration, so I would imagine you don't consider somebody that wouldn't be interested in the position.
Well, sometimes they just say that, but they don't want to.
Yeah.
You know.
I think Condoleezza Rice was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
You don't go out too much, but you know that I guess Caroline's is closing.
Yes,
It's a
that's what I heard. Yeah. Why is it closing? Did they say?
No, but it's closing the end of the year.
Hmm.
And I guess that's a blow for comedy.
No, well, I don't know. I never liked the club personally.
Yeah.
No.
And also, I watched a documentary. I sent it to Patrick I didn't bother sending it to you because I know you wouldn't open it. But it was on homelessness.
Right, you are. What? Yeah.
It was on homelessness and how it's such a big business and that homelessness will never be eradicated because too many people are making money with their nonprofits. There was one guy.
Who did this documentary?
I don't know. I'll send it to you.
What sleazeball made this?
Yeah. Let me look. Let me see who I sent it to. And okay.
You don't even know who made the documentary. You don't know his qualifications. You don't know whether he's just a right winger looking to make a point. I mean, you got this guy Dinesh D'Souza.
Jack Tran.
Tran.
Yeah. Tran. Oh, Jake Tran.
Mm-hmm.
Why no one wants to solve the homeless problem.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very interesting documentary. And there's this one guy, his salary is $1 million a year. And then what he does is he hires all his relatives and he has a security company that he owns that provides the security. He has...
Yes, let's see here. Jack Tran apologizes for nothing. CoffeeZilla has made a name for himself by exposing crypto and NFT practices by some of the top influencers in the world. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, well, you may be right. I don't know.
Yeah, well, it was a very interesting documentary. Put it this way, Patrick must have sent me like 4 messages after he watched it. He was upset by seeing those kinds of things happening in his city area.
Jack Tran apologizes for nothing. CoffeeZilla has...
Hey, they like it so much they're playing it twice.
Yeah. Well, Jeff got it. Okay. Yeah, he got it.
I like when Jeff does that. He makes the point.
He makes the point. Here we got Jeff, and we got Kevin, and we got Alan, and we got Charlie. Yeah.
You know, you're lucky. You have some loyal people that care about you and show up all the time.
Yeah, I feel real privileged. Anyway, what?
Yeah, you should be happy about it.
What do you got your hand up for already there?
Well, because I just want to add some things to Phil's stories.
Okay, go ahead.
Ted Cruz's daughter found out she was pregnant. And
Really?
since she couldn't get an abortion...
No, Alan. This is not something...
That's fake news. Fake news. You should be ashamed of yourself.
That's what I read that just now.
Yeah?
I can't tell you where like you.
Yeah, no, I'm sure.
Or she found out her father was a Republican, one of the two. So
Teen suicide is way up now. That's not something we should be joking about.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't joking. I felt that it was an awful thing, and I realize how difficult it is to be a dad and how hard it is to be a 14-year-old girl.
Well, it could be you're a bad dad, and that's why your kid was.
I don't think so.
No, I think that there are many reasons why teens commit suicide. A lot of times it has to do with bullying. It has to do with pressures from groups and so on. It's teen pressure. But in some cases, it's parents not paying attention to the signs.
I don't think, well, maybe to the signs, but I don't think not paying attention to his daughter was Ted Cruz's crime.
Well, we don't know. Ted Cruz may be a lousy father. We don't know.
Hey, everybody can be a lousy father, but
he may be a great father too.
If you don't,
all I know,
we shouldn't speculate about it. We shouldn't. Just leave her alone. She's a kid.
Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah.
You heard about the story, I suppose, in Texas, right? I mean,
No, it's national.
no,
It's
no,
national.
but he heard about it, I suppose, because he's in Texas. You know.
Well, it's on the national news too, but
Yeah. When did it come out on the national news?
Yesterday. I think.
Yesterday.
I saw it yesterday on MSN.com. Yeah.
You know, to me, if I had a daughter and she tried to commit suicide, I was in politics, I might just get out of it, rather than.
That may happen. Ted Cruz left Washington and went home.
Well, of course he had to go home for something like that. Come on.
Right. Absolutely. Well, he's nobody in politics anyhow, you know, and so he ought to just leave.
What?
He's not important. to
Are you drunk again, Alan?
Does that
I'm drunk.
Yeah, no, I'm drinking your Kool-Aid, Phil.
Hello, Ray. Hello, Brian.
Hi.
Yeah, other Brian. Bryan.
Did you get your $50 back from Herschel Walker, Phil, because he didn't win?
No, he's going to dinner on it.
Yeah, he gave it. I saw his concession speech. It was okay.
I thought that was the best speech he had.
That
Yeah.
was the first coherent statement he's made.
Yes.
You know, I truly believe that the black community is the reason why Warnock won.
Mhm.
And because the Republicans are trying in the South to cut the blacks out from voting and early voting and mail-in voting and all this other stuff. And the black community said, you know, we're not going to take this anymore. We will vote for Warnock.
Georgia, Alan, Georgia actually has more liberal laws for extending the vote than other states like North
The
Carolina.
newest governor tried to stop that too.
By the way, let the confusion begin. We've been joined now by another Brian.
Another Brian.
Oh boy.
Oh,
Too
really?
bad, like with Skype, you could put all the Bryans on one row.
Just point to us.
Yeah. Well, no, one will be Mr. Neary and one will be Mr. Let me see here. Sigma.
Bathtub.
Yeah. But
Well,
Do,
funny
do we
story
know
about
who?
or I could say Brian with an A and Brian with a Y.
The third Brian.
That's the first time. That's the first time I've coughed all day.
Jeff raised his hand.
Yes.
Yeah. Do we know who won in Vermont?
What do you mean? Who won in Vermont?
Was there an election?
I think Vermont is trying to get back to be instead of a Democrat, they want to be a Republican.
I didn't know it was contested.
Yeah.
I heard
Maybe the thing isn't done yet.
What do you mean? Yeah, that's done. Everything is. This is the last unsettled.
Didn't somebody must have said something.
Well, this was the last unsettled congressional. or
Yeah, I thought so.
senatorial
That's what you
race.
talk about.
Yeah.
My friend Sally Kelly won as a Democrat. She's a state senator, the state assembly for New Hampshire.
Mhm.
So she has left Carpet One, and she's now a state senator. Again,
Carpet One. I
second.
thought we weren't supposed to talk about Carpet One.
No, well, she's a So she was with
who just for grins and giggles. Who by chance, and I just ask this because I don't know, is Carpet 2?
they come after me in the book. Yeah, they try harder.
But, yeah, 2 would come after Carpet 1. Yeah. Oh well,
Very nice.
Mathematics 101. 1, then the number 2.
Yeah, you're just like Flicka. How many kids in the well, Flicka? 3 kids?
Okay. Well, no, that's what I did. I asked. I'm sorry that Walker isn't around anymore because man, he was good for some jokes.
Oh yeah.
You know. So anyway, it's all over with. You know, and I'll tell you what's happened here, Phil. And please, you have to agree. Trump is pretty much not a big deal anymore. I mean, everybody that he backed, that he went for,
except one
in major races, lost their races.
Yeah.
You know,
But,
and the Republicans consider him persona non grata. They consider him poison.
Well, I think
where's he been since he announced he's going to run? He's been so quiet.
Wait, he's been having dinner with Nazis. What do you mean? Come on, that takes up all your time.
Veil your papers.
Yeah. No, but
I think he has. He was dealt a pretty difficult. He's been dealt a bad blow, and
what do you mean he was dealt a bad blow? Every bad blow that he's been dealt, he has caused for himself.
Yeah, but most of them were like Teflon; they just rolled off. But these kind of caused some damage.
And now he loses all these court battles. Okay. And then, on top of that, he lost the one here in New York. Although he's only going to have to pay.
That's the Trump organization.
Well, yes, but it was stated on many occasions that he signed off on everything. And he was, come on, you're going to tell me he didn't know what was going on in his own company?
Well,
and if he didn't know what was going on in his own company, what was he doing being president of the United States?
Well,
okay?
He's supposed to divest himself.
Question.
He's supposed to divest himself from his personal finances, and he had that guy Weiselberg.
All these charges go back to before he was president, Phil.
Weiselberg is the one that benefited by these tax scams.
Well, so did Trump, and so did a lot of other people.
Trump was living at Trump Tower, and he had a unit there. Well,
he was just renting from himself.
Well,
what are you saying,
he had
Phil?
his office there.
Phil, he knew what was going on in his company, and he knew the kind of shenanigans that this Weiselberg was doing.
You can't suppose what he knew and didn't know.
Yes, I can. Yes, I can. I can because in court people testified that he knew.
Weiselberg said that it was him that did it. The CFO.
Weiselberg. Who did Weiselberg work for? Phil, if I have a company, and I hire you, and then you steal or do something very illegal that harms the company, I'm still to blame because the buck stops here. It's my company.
Yeah, but when you're running the country for 4 years,
he wasn't running the country
before he was running the country.
Yeah, this was before. This goes back 15 years, Phil.
Yeah, he's an amazing businessman. He would have had his fingers on the pulse of his own company while he was in office, and that's the whole fucking point of anyone who thinks that he.
Brian,
good.
If it was anybody else besides Trump, they would have paid a fine, and it would have been the end of it. It wouldn't have been this witch hunt like it is.
Tell that to Wesley Snipes.
They're having to pay a fine. That's what the $1.5 million is. $1.3 million.
$1.5 a drop in a bucket.
Yeah,
Did
you
you forget about Nixon?
What?
What Nixon had to do? He quit.
Yeah.
Right? Well, Trump would have.
And he got
Trump would have
pardoned.
quit. I think we'd all be very happy.
He quit and he got pardoned. He got rid of Agnew. He brought in Ford, and Ford pardoned him, and that was the end of Ford's career as well, except for his advertising for Viagra.
Well, I understood why he didn't want to go and charge Nixon with stuff, because he felt it would not be positive for the country. That it would be better just pardon him, let him go away, and let's get on with the business of America.
Hey, Alex. Alex.
Yeah.
All right. So I went through many of accountants since I've been in business, and they're all a pain in the ass. They really are. Yeah, they're so uptight. They could never have hypothetical conversations with you. Okay. That's their morality. I finally came across an accountant who would have these hypothetical conversations with me, like, what if I did this, or what if I did that? What's this? And this guy would just, he'd be perfect because he would have these hypothetical conversations with me. My point being is this, is that this guy, every year, he hands me a tax return and he says, here's a tax return that is accurate. And then he goes, here's one that's trash.
Mm-hmm.
If you want the one that's trash, you sign it. The reason being is, here's a guy who kind of knew how to manipulate it, but he didn't want it to fall back on him. That's what Weisselberg was to Trump. Weisselberg was the accountant that said, well, this is trash, but if this is what you want, this is what you want. And he took all kinds of benefits from it. And it wasn't something that benefited just Weisselberg only, because there was no reason for Weisselberg to have a gain on it to begin with. This whole thing, it all starts from the top. Like, you don't have an accountant. Accountants just don't, like, do your bidding.
Well, I'll tell you something. Here's the point, Brian. You do Trump's bidding, otherwise you don't have a job. In other words, these people try to second think Trump and don't do anything they don't think he would like. All right? So if Weisselberg was, let's say arbitrarily, that he was stealing this money, then Trump was really not paying attention to his company and not paying attention to the bottom line at that company. So he was a bad administrator of that company.
Trump surrounded himself while president with some pretty good talent.
Oh yeah, like who?
Like who?
Believe me, there was
like
there was
who?
good
Like
talent.
who? Phil, come on, you said it. Now come up with the goods.
Even Kelly was good, or Mattis, or you look at some of these guys. Now they didn't last, but he did surround himself with some good talent and some smart people. And that's what an administrator does. They delegate. Well, maybe also
he didn't have good
organization.
people. They said, in fact, I saw a thing with a bunch of people who are experts on this. They said he picked some of the worst people you could possibly pick.
His own
Every
family.
Giuliani.
Every time there was a light shine, every time there was a light shined on a problem, all of a sudden the people that were in charge were motherfuckers. So what do you mean that people were like the best talent out there? Even Trump would throw him under the bus the second he got in trouble.
Trump throws everybody under the bus when he gets in trouble. That's his flaw. His flaw is that he can never be
Wait
wrong.
a minute. Hold on a second, folks. Everybody take a big
write this
pause and write this down. No, you don't have to have a drink because he didn't say anything wrong. Phil has just said that Trump has a flaw.
Yeah.
Someone needs to tweet that.
He's such a nice guy.
Next week. It's a good thing this is recorded, because he's going to deny he said that.
Yeah.
Well, it's coming, but I believe that he's been under so much pressure for the last 6-7 years that I don't see how any human being can go through what he went through and not.
Well,
He was. May I please tell you
shit.
that he was president of the United States, and I'm sorry. You can't be a pussy about it. These are the things that happen when you're president of the United States. All the spotlight is on you. All the criticism is on you, and is part and parcel of the job. Every president.
But he's not president today, and
yeah,
Thank God.
yeah,
all
but
self-inflicted
the
as
problem
well.
is he's still got some stuff that belongs to us.
Yeah.
And a few days ago, he said he should be reinstalled as president, and that parts of the Constitution should be
No,
I
gotten rid of.
have a problem with that.
The whole
I took
He
it.
said it.
I know. I took an oath to protect and the Constitution of the United States and defend it, and I have a problem with what he said. It's
Well, then you're going to have a problem with what I'm going to say. What I've been saying for years is similar, but it's not the same. And that is that I think we need to rewrite the Constitution. I think we need a new constitutional convention, and I think we need to sit down and really look at each amendment to the Constitution and see how much of it applies today, how much of it needs to be updated for today. Wait a minute, let me finish. So I've never been happy with the United States Constitution, but he just said, "Oh, let's get rid of it."
What doesn't
But do you know what a shit show that would be?
Yeah.
Well, in this day and age, we couldn't do it because nobody would agree with it, anybody else.
There's no way.
Well, if we had Josh here, he'd probably tell us how difficult it was to write the original Constitution.
Exactly.
I mean, what a shit show that was.
Well, give me some examples of things that you would change today that's in the Constitution.
Oh, the Second Amendment.
Second Amendment, yeah.
I'm very pro the Second Amendment.
No, but it's so ambiguous.
It's so ambiguous.
Yeah,
I mean, if we're going to write it, and you want it
like the First Amendment, right?
How is that ambiguous, Alan?
Well, the First Amendment is there. The Second Amendment supports it, right?
Well, yeah, that's what I think.
That's what I think too.
How does the Second Amendment support the First Amendment?
It protects us from a tyrannical government.
They did not write the Second Amendment to protect us from a
Yes, they
no,
did.
they did not. They did that so they could go out and hunt slaves that ran away.
Charlie, there is steam coming out of your ears.
You better believe it. I'm tired of people lying about the Second Amendment.
They're not lying.
Second Amendment was it's all about fighting against tyrannical government. It had nothing to do with hunting and all that.
Yeah,
shit.
nothing to do with hunting. It's about a tyrannical government, and the tyrannical government.
I
was the
agree.
English.
I agree with Charlie that it had a
It
lot
was
to
the
do.
English.
About hunting slaves that run away so the South could have their fucking
no, it
militias
didn't.
to go hunt.
It was about the English, Charlie. It was about that tyrannical government trying to
Read a history book.
No, the Second Amendment came much later.
a few years, but it was
about white
because
people oppressing white people. That's bullshit, Charlie. What the fuck? That's
That
not
is
true.
not bullshit, Brian. That's bullshit.
it is.
Read a history book. I had to live with this my whole fucking life. I don't want to hear about this bullshit about white suppression.
Live with
Whites are not oppressed in the United States of America.
Live with what? Live with what? The Second Amendment is clearly about a tyrannical government.
No,
Has
it is
nothing-
not. It's
Wait a
about people
Hold
having a standing
Hold on a
force so
second.
you can protect us from other people coming in, and that was the excuse that they made.
First of all, calm down, Charlie. I don't want to see you have a heart attack. Okay.
no one has
Wait,
died
hold
on
on a
the
second.
air.
Hold on a second.
There's
What
always
we're,
a
the
first
argument that we're having here is exactly why the Second Amendment should be rewritten, because it's so ambiguous that Charlie sees it one way, Brian sees it another way, Phil sees it another way. Okay, and the fact is, it's a terrible amendment. It was terribly written. In order,
No one can know. It's impossible to figure out exactly what it means. It's just
Not for me.
Jesus.
No, I mean, if you just read it, outright.
Here's the Second Amendment.
I'm not making a judgment on the validity of it. I'm just saying, just from a contextual.
By the way,
standpoint.
Phil, do you have a Constitution in front of you?
In front of me? No.
Here's the
Charlie
Second
does.
Amendment.
Yeah.
A well-regulated militia. And nobody gives a fuck about regulation nowadays. About the
Or
Second Amendment.
militias. Or
Well-regulated
militias.
militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That's all.
That's pretty
it
clear to
says.
me.
It doesn't say anything about tyrannical governments. It doesn't say anything about hunting your fucking deer
The
or whatever
right
in the woods.
of the people to bear arms shall not be infringed. That's
But
what
it's
it says.
about well-regulated militia.
There
It
is
doesn't
a
say
there is
anything.
There's a
hold
comma
on
there.
a second. Hold on a second. There is a requirement here that in order to maintain a well-ordered militia. Well, we don't have militias anymore. The closest thing we have to a militia is your state troopers, things like that. Wait a minute, let me finish. And so in order to maintain a well-ordered militia, we don't have militias any longer, so the second part of it doesn't count.
That's why the people are armed and they can
That's
stand
why
up
it
when
needs to
needed.
be
We
rewritten.
did not have a standing army during peacetime back then.
A standing army. It's a militia of the people that
We did-
rise
it-
That's
to
why
the
they had
occasion.
that in there, is because you didn't have a standing army.
And,
Now we have a
don't
standing
now.
army.
It might be the standing army that we have to
don't need
defend
that.
ourselves against.
Hmm.
You know, I mean, hey, in the 60s, we had to defend
Phil,
ourselves against
Phil,
the man.
you have to admit it's a badly written amendment. It is ambiguous. It is up for discussion. Maybe when it was first written, it wasn't. Maybe it made perfect sense when it was first written. But by today, with today's standards and what's going on today, it doesn't make any sense at all.
But if, Alex, if one were to admit it's a badly written amendment,
yes,
then the question should then be, how would one write it? And then we're all going to be at each other's throats.
No.
Exactly.
It might have been purposely badly written because there was a lot of dissension over these things back then. And so sometimes they made it ambiguous on purpose in order to just sort of quell everybody.
Satisfy a certain amount of people.
To keep the states happy.
Yeah.
And if you tried to do it today, nobody would be happy.
Personally, this is my view. The Second Amendment, it's just that you're talking. By the way, this is coming from a guy who has no guns. No gun. I have no guns.
Yeah.
I don't need guns. I've never felt like I needed guns, and if I did, maybe I would. But the thing is that I see it. I see this point where, like, you know, this is all about keeping everything in check. You know, think about America being as an invadable, like, resource in North America. Like, you come into this country, you're going to be taking pot shots from every window. There's no more national security that you could ever ask for than a well-armed America.
I agree.
And so to me, it's just.
Oh yeah, then it's everybody shooting at everybody else.
That's not true.
But personally, I mean,
listen. What do you mean it's not true? That's almost what's happening right now.
Well, this is not a popular opinion, but I will say this, that the people who actually die for this country are the children who die in mass shootings in schools. They're the people who actually die for this country, not the people who sign up to take a $20,000 bonus to go be an infantryman in Afghanistan. I'm talking about kids who get gunned the fuck down in schools where they never signed up for that shit. That is real noble stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's that those people are dying for this country, and that's because of the rights to bear arms. So to me, to get rid of this stuff, man, it's a slippery slope. You can't get me to go along with it.
Charlie?
I'm a Second Amendment Democrat 10,000% of the way, and that's just how I am.
Charlie, and then Ray.
Yeah, I can name 60 people in Las Vegas that didn't sign up to be killed by that idiot in the hotel tower, and the 500 people that he wounded, they didn't sign up for any of that either.
Yeah, right, Ray.
Well, also there are so many people killed by handguns every single day, so more than the kids in the schools. We just don't. But also, I believe that all, like, back when the Constitution was written, like, all men were encouraged to be a part of a militia. And so that's why it's sort of ambiguous, because they didn't think of it as like personal rights to own a gun. You were in this organization that was a militia because we needed militias to protect ourselves. I'm not discounting what you said, Charlie, either. I think that's a part of it as well.
Well, look, the Constitution starts out as a lie with the whole premise that all men are created equal. Because when they wrote that, they didn't believe all men were created equal. They meant all white men were created equal.
3/5 of a human here, 3/5.
Yeah, but it had a net result, Alex.
And it's a quality 3/5, Charlie. I just want you to know that.
Yes.
And all women were not on that list.
Oh, also. Women weren't even considered.
Women were zero. Women were no fifth.
And people who didn't own property.
You know something? I often like to think that when America was formed, when this country was formed, the women, blacks, were the slaves, and the second largest slave group were women. You know, and because you don't see anything in the Constitution that talks about women, there still isn't anything there. Is there
indentured servants?
Huh?
indentured servants that they would bring over from Europe that would have to work basically doing slave labor for 7 years before they were freed.
Well, many
Women
of those
didn't
were,
get the vote until what, 1926 or something like that?
right. That took an amendment finally.
Yeah.
to do that.
Suffrage, was it 26 or earlier than that?
20?
Do you know what came at the
Okay.
same? You know what came at approximately the same time?
Prohibition?
That's right. And you know why prohibition happened? Because the
Part of
the
the
women's
deal.
rights movement were forced it because that was part of the. It was all part of the what do you call it? The anti-alcohol group.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
It was a religious sort of thing.
Well,
Yeah.
no, it was that women used to literally get beaten to death by their husbands who
By
come
their
home
husbands.
drunk.
Who
You
got
know.
Oh, yeah, right.
There was
Yeah.
a big alcohol problem in this country, and I'm not saying that prohibition wasn't warranted for a while. It tampered everything down. But, you know, I mean, women were hated the fact that alcohol existed because their husbands would go out and spend all the money the family had at the local bar. There were
Yeah.
7 bars on every street here in New York City. As
But it
an
made for
example.
Chicago, too.
illegal trade because of when it became illegal, then there was an underground.
Yeah, speakeasies, you know.
Yeah.
Well, but that still
Bootlegs.
slowed it down. That still slowed it down. And when we came back out of Prohibition, it never got as bad as it was before Prohibition. Okay? But I mean, the amount of beer that was consumed in this country, in large part because a lot of times the only water that you could drink that was safe was beer.
Yeah.
When we came out of Prohibition, was it the times of the Depression?
What?
When we came out of Prohibition, were we in the Depression, or was it
I
just
think we went into the Depression right after Prohibition was. Prohibition lasted 13 years, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so that was what
It
20?
came out at like 1930 or something when they reestablished that you could sell alcohol.
But 1929 was the
Was the crash.
the crash. So it was, I think part of the reason they gave up on Prohibition was because it was costing the country money.
Yeah.
And so therefore they didn't want to continue with Prohibition.
They could get tax stamps, you know.
Right. It's the same argument they're doing for marijuana nowadays. Is that they're buying the stuff anyway? Why don't we get taxes on it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, except marijuana is the evil weed, and it's the devil's workshop.
Yeah. It'll force you to get an erection.
Work.
Maybe Phil ought to try that.
Yeah. But
After a prostatectomy, I'll try anything.
yeah. But I mean, it's really kind of, you know, I mean, the whole concept of the Constitution being this end all in being wonderful. I mean, how wonderful was it when you had?
I'll give you the Second Amendment.
Do you know
Let's
you
table that.
got rid of alcohol, right, with the amendment in creating Prohibition. And then to get rid of that, to stop that amendment, you had to write another amendment stopping it, but you didn't do away with the original amendment that you were stopping.
They cross it out, Alex. They don't.
They don't cross it out. There's no crossing out. It's still there, but then you have another one, maybe I think it was 3 or 4 amendments later, that then
Whichever
said...
one's the latest is the one that counts.
After the Second Amendment, what else would you change?
Oh, I think women's right to vote, I think.
Yeah, of course. What about anything from the original Constitution?
I'd have to go look at it, but I think that what we need to do is look at each individual amendment and consider rewriting them for this day and age, because a lot of them are very archaic. They don't apply to today, you know.
Yeah.
I just think that you could replace, for instance, the thing that did away with slavery, for instance, the amendment that did away with slavery, and write something that's far more what can I call it? Precise. Than
like the Civil Rights Amendment that never passed.
Like the Civil Rights Amendment that never passed, yeah. Yes, Charlie?
The 13th Amendment doesn't actually abolish slavery. because you can still use slavery as a punishment for a crime, according to that amendment.
And they do.
And they do. They do.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of private prisons have poor and people of color working for almost no money, and they can't, they have nothing,
and no liberty either.
Right.
You know.
So I might rewrite that.
Sounds like a John Lennon song.
All I'm saying is we should look at the whole Constitution and see what needs to be rewritten. You know. I don't say throw it out completely. I think there's probably
I don't trust anybody.
Well, the problem is the problem you would run into today is just a total adversarial relationship between parties and so on, and nobody would agree. It would take you forever to write a new constitution. You know?
I just want to point out that Ray's got, what was that, Alamo Square and the Seven Sisters behind you?
Yeah.
Yeah, nice shot.
Yeah, I didn't take it. It's a stock photo I got from Adobe.
Oh.
So what is,
I'm in front of Lawrence Ferlinghetti's bookstore.
I know, I see that.
I forgot. Brian, what is the tattoo? Brian Neary?
Neary?
Oh, yes, Neary.
What is the tattoo?
Cadillac.
Huh?
Cadillac.
You know...
Cadillac emblem.
Well, guys sometimes, you know, when they get a tattoo, they put the name of their wife or girlfriend on there, you know.
I would have like all of them all the way crossed off all the way down one side.
Well, that's why I never got a tattoo. You know, Marjorie has a tattoo on her ankle that says buddy. And I just kind of, you know, I said, don't you feel bad about that? You know, because
do you have a dog or a cat named
Buddy is long gone. If you want to get a cat, let's name the cat Buddy, just so it fits, you know. But I thought they have this stuff that you can take and it erases tattoos, literally. And I was just going to erase the Buddy while she was sleeping one night. And when Buddy's not there anymore, why don't you go down and have him put in Alex? Less letters, it'll fit.
How come the people get these laser treatments to remove the tattoo?
Yeah, very painful.
Very painful.
Well, I'll tell you, you can't get rid of all tattoos with that.
Oh, it depends on the color?
It's the color. Yeah, I think black you can get rid of. Blue, I think you can get rid of.
It makes it look blurry, but
Charlie, they're going after you again.
It makes it look blurry, but it's better if they do that, or if they they have like if they have like someone's name and a rose, then they'll change that, and they'll do it over with like a dragon or something. That's the best thing to do.
When I was in Ibiza one time, sitting on the beach, I was sitting in this cafe, and there was a guy, had to be older than I am right now, right?
Not that old.
And he had a tattoo on his arm that had kind of really faded and was droopy because his skin was droopy, and it had a name there. And all I could do was think about, he's had this all his life, and he probably doesn't even remember what she looked like, And that's the reason not to get a tattoo, because eventually your skin droops, and so will the tattoo. And tattoos do fade to a great extent. Marjorie says her tattoo is really half of the brightness that it once was. Yes, first Alan and then Ray, yes.
So when Brian gets older, Brian Neary gets older, it's going to say cataract, like in the eyes.
Yes, Ray.
It reminded me of this Saturday Night Live skit where they had tramp stamps. Remember when they were getting those tramp stamps on their lower back?
Yeah.
And then the women would magically age. They would go forward, and the tramp stamps would be like just disgusting, like things like going down their butt crack.
Tell Phil to take his shirt off. He's got a bunch on his back.
I have no tattoos. I have no tattoos.
When I was a kid, it was just sailors and bikers. It's like I can't get that out of my mind. That's why I can't get it out.
And gang members.
Entertainment had this show like in the early 2000s, and it was they were going out to the Vegas nightclubs and stuff, and we were going to a party. My ex then, and both her and her friends had those. And the guy from E Entertainment, the one famous guy, he says, "Oh, he says something to them," and they turned around and he says, "Oh, and what are those signs for? What are those tattoos for?" And I told him it was for practice, for shooting practice.
Oh, okay.
The tramp stamps?
Yeah.
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 Because, when they're...
Do you know what they look like? I got to tell you this. When I was a kid, I don't know if you remember this, but in the old days, back in the 50s and 40s, and maybe into the 30s, they had garbage trucks, and the garbage, and they have now. But in those days, when they had the garbage trucks, they were usually painted green, and then there was this ornamentation on it, I guess, to make the garbage trucks look pretty or something. And that ornamentation looked very much to me like what the tramp stamps look like.
Yeah.
So every one I saw reminded me of a garbage truck.
Alex, you have a tattoo. You have a tattoo.
Certain kinds of pinstriping looks like.
I have 4 tattoos.
Yeah, 4 tattoos. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, well, actually, I have a
you can
few
barely
dots
see it.
also.
One here, one here, one here, one here. I'm pointing to my stomach.
I've never been able to see mine. I have some from the operation.
Yeah,
it's on his penis. He hasn't seen that in a long time. Or
yeah, really. Or my feet.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Charlie?
According to Google, only 30% of Americans have tattoos.
That's a lot.
Everybody I know has a tattoo. I can't believe it's only 30%.
Well, you ought to join them, Charlie.
How many tattoos do you have, Jeff?
0.
Okay, you can be buried in a Jewish cemetery.
That's right.
Let's see if it's 30% of us here.
I said to them when they put these little tattoos, and they just little dots, right? It's where they can line up the lasers.
Why didn't you get them along your eyes right here, the little dots?
No, because it was for my.
That's for how many guests he's killed.
It was for my prostate and for the radiation that they did.
They use it to align the equipment.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah, but they're just really. In fact, Marjorie says, "Well, what's that dot?" And she saw it the other day, and I went, "Oh, that's one of the dots, right?"
I've never seen it. I don't even know where they are.
But they did them, and I said to them at the time, I said, I'm Jewish, and now I can't be buried in a Jewish cemetery. And they immediately had an answer and said, no, the rabbis have said it's okay to get this kind of tattoo because it's life-saving.
I forget the word they call it, some Hashimim or something, but
it's called Goyim. Goyim.
No, it's not Goyim, but it's Alan and I have a friend who's a very religious Jew, and he knows the answer to that.
Yeah,
but I would think that
there is one other tattoo that you can be buried in a Jewish cemetery with.
Oh,
and
yeah,
it's a set of numbers tattooed onto your arm.
If you're in concentration camps.
Yeah,
that's right.
Well, the Hitler version.
Yep.
Yeah,
the Hitler tattoo.
I think it's I think that's one of the reasons they tattooed the Jews.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know, because it's supposedly you're supposed to leave this world the same way you came into it, and I
With
went
nothing.
I went,
that's
what,
why they bury you
6 inches tall? What? You know, I mean.
Bill wants to be buried with his ass in the air.
Hey.
Well, then, if that's the case, why did they get circumcised?
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, what's with the circumcision?
It's a thing about cleanliness, I think.
Yeah, but that's not how you came into the world.
That's not how you came in the world. But anyway, let me bring up something.
Less.
There was a thing that was brought up before the Supreme Court just the other day about this woman who is a web designer, and she refused to design websites for gay marriages. Okay, because she didn't believe in gay marriage and she didn't want to do anything. And the Supreme Court is now looking at whether she is right to not have done what she did, which wasn't where she refused the business.
No shirt, no shoes, no service.
What does that mean? I don't get
no
it.
shirt, no shoes, no service.
I don't get what you're saying.
So if you go into a restaurant, you don't have shirt and shoes, they have a sign up. They say no service. Now, if the person is going to do a gay wedding or something that the woman doesn't believe in, I think she has the right to say, no, this is not for me.
I don't know. I'm kind of.
Can put a shirt on.
How did you end up getting married then?
No, but
I like girls, Alan, unlike you.
I don't know. I mean, I don't agree with this woman's refusal to take the business. Okay, but let me put it this way. I feel that I don't know that she doesn't have if it's a religious belief, and she feels she's going against her religious beliefs for doing that, but that's not what she's saying. She's saying it's going against her personal beliefs.
Yeah, what about the cake bakers? What was the end result of their case?
I'm trying to remember. I think they had made...
It was in Dallas, I think, or somewhere in Texas.
20 years ago.
No, this wasn't 20. This was just a few years ago.
No, but there were these cake bakers that refused to bake a cake for a gay wedding.
This was a couple of years ago in Texas, Phil.
No, this one was a
I thought it was in Colorado.
As I remember it, the case
Colorado.
It was okay to do that.
Texas,
it was like
Colorado, what's the difference?
They couldn't force her to do that. They couldn't force her to make a cake for...
Right, so that's why I don't think, if that was the end result as precedent, that might be what this woman will end up with.
She's the designer. Lori Smith said she wanted to expand her business to offer wedding sites, but she did not want to peddle her wedding services to gay clients based on her religious beliefs.
Huh.
She worried that she would run afoul of Colorado state law, which prohibits businesses from discriminating based on sexual orientation. So she sued state officials, claiming that forcing her to provide services to gay couples amounted to endorsing their marriage and violated her free speech rights.
I have a question.
This is kind of complicated, I think.
I have a question, Alex.
Yeah.
What kind of narcissist would go into a bakery, find out that someone doesn't condone your way of life, and then demand that they make them a cake? To me,
was it that way, or did somebody just want a cake and they said no?
Then take the effing no.
And go somewhere else.
Well, Mike, look, I agree with you. Go next door and buy a cake from the guy who will.
Absolutely.
I'm sure you can find enough bakers who'd be willing to bake you your penis cake, your cake. But what happened is they went and did that in order to then make a point out of it and then make a case out of it. I think that's really what was going on. Because, and so far as a website to take care of your wedding needs, hey, okay, you don't want to take my business because I'm gay? Screw you. I don't want to give you my money. I'll go to this person. I'll go to Alex Bennett, who will put together a website for me, and
But that's not what's going on here. They're not saying we'll take our business elsewhere. We're saying no. You're gonna do this business, and we're gonna. I mean, I don't know. It seems there's something very narcissistic about it. I don't like it. It strikes me as very odd to sit there.
But one of the things that
wait a minute. Hold on a second. Ray was saying.
I just want to say I agree with you, Brian. But the point though is that I'm not making a judgment either way. I'm just saying it is maybe narcissistic, but on the other hand, it is a valid issue for us to decide. And so the people, it could be their motivation. Well, they feel is it possible they feel a responsibility to follow through because they think it's wrong? And not narcissistic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
And also, like 60 years ago, we'd have the same argument and say, well, I don't want to bake cake for a black couple.
Exactly.
Right.
Because and that was okay. So like, where do you draw the line?
Well, just remember, when you get on an airplane now, you can't smoke a cigarette.
Thank God.
Yeah, thank God.
Well, you're endangering other people's lives.
But that's the way it was done.
But
and
you can get on
it was
an
also when
airliner
you
right
came
now
to
without
work.
a mask and endanger other people's lives.
Yeah, I got COVID from that.
Yep. It's a bad move.
I wore a mask, but nobody else did.
Jeff, what's the cigarette? No, go on with that. What's the cigarette analogy?
Well, the cigarette thing is that there's people who still buy and smoke. The question is, the equivalent of you can't smoke in a restaurant, you should be able to buy a cake. Okay?
Yeah. Well,
Think
like
about
one has a valid reason because
Yeah.
you're hurting people, but you're not hurting anyone by buying a cake.
Well, a cake, a cake may not very the most
somewhere
healthy
along
thing
the
to
line,
have.
somewhere along the line, and this Brian with the Y is right that somewhere along the line somebody had to want to make a case out of this.
Right.
So who was doing it to make a case out of it? Was it the gay people who wanted the cake, or wanted the website?
Like the black people who sat in the counter at Woolworths.
Yeah.
I'll
give you a better one. I interviewed John Scopes years ago and got to know the man. And it turned out, I said, do you really believe in what you were fighting for? And he says, well, not in the beginning, because really the reason I agreed is they needed somebody to test a case, to test the law in Tennessee. He said, and so they said, would you be willing to go along with it? And we'll give you a trip to anywhere in South America you want to go on vacation. And he said, so I did it, I said, did you ever teach, what do you call it, the theory of evolution in your classes? And he says, I really can't remember whether I did or I didn't. He says, I was a phys ed teacher. He said, but they put an ad in the paper, the ACLU. So I went and answered it. And that's how the Scopes monkey trial happened. Okay? It wasn't because somebody was bothered by the fact that this guy was teaching evolution in his classes and blah, blah, blah. No, they wanted to test the law.
Alex, the problem that I find is that, to me, personally, this doesn't pass the sniff test. You got a cake maker and bumblefuck whatever, Michigan or wherever the fuck it is, and they go, we don't want to make a cake, and then someone goes, oh, we're gonna make a fucking example out of you, and what they did was they totally exploited a small business owners, whatever the fuck their values were.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the same as mine. I wouldn't give a shit,
Mm-hmm.
but they exploited it, and now they're making a big example out of it. And I asked myself, I go, you son of a bitch, if I were a gay man and I wanted a cake being made and someone didn't want it, I go, fuck you, you don't get the business.
Right.
But that's not what's going on here. So it doesn't pass the sniff
Well,
test to me.
it's kind of like the Scopes monkey trial. I mean, they wanted a case to be able to be made to try and change law. Okay. Yes,
which is what happened is the Supreme Court ended up with that case in Colorado, and it was ruled in favor of the cake maker not to bake that cake.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
For religious beliefs by a Christian, because he was Christian.
Religious.
But this
religious
other one's not
beliefs.
religious.
Charlie's
Pardon?
got his hand up.
This
So the other one
not
is
over
the other one's
religious?
the other one's a website, so it's totally different.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a
Charlie?
cake website.
Yeah, the problem with what Brian with the Y was saying is that what happens when you can't find the store that will make a cake for a gay person? What happens if there is a store that makes a cake for gay persons and the Ku Klux Klan then burns that store down?
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, you can't assume that. Like sometimes it could be a lawyer putting someone up to it. I mean, there could be a million different reasons. That
I'm sure that these cases were somehow somebody was put up to it.
Yeah.
Somewhere, either on the right or the left. I don't know which.
Usually that's the way it
But
works.
somebody was trying to make a case because, quite frankly, if I were gay and I went into somebody and I said I want a wedding cake for myself and my intended, and they said, well, I'm sorry, we're not going to do a cake for a gay wedding, then I go next door and buy a cake from somebody who would. All I'm looking for is to get a cake made. But if I'm looking for a case to be, and I've heard about this guy that wouldn't make the cakes, then I'd send some people in to do it, and then those people would turn around and sue the guy, and you've got some kind of landmark case.
There are organizations like the ACLU who do that kind of thing all the time. It happened here in Palo Alto. There's a park where the ACLU decided that they wanted to have it open to everyone because they say it was discriminating against the minorities in East Palo Alto who never go to the park, who never go to that park. And it caused like unbelievable strife, and it was a lawyer who put someone else up to it.
Well, it was the ACLU who did the thing with John Scopes in the Scopes monkey trial back in the 30s in Tennessee. But the great thing about the Scopes monkey trial is out of it came a great play called Inherit the Wind that you probably have done in one time in your life as an actor.
I've read it many times. I can't believe you interviewed. How old was he when you interviewed him?
I can't remember how old he was, but I got to know him.
That's great.
I interviewed him, and then I got to meet up with him, I think, when he came to Houston, and my wife Ronnie and I were friends of his.
Do you have a recording of it?
No, I don't. But it was one of the best interviews I ever did.
I wish I could hear it.
You're not gonna believe this, but I studied wedding photography with a great photographer, Doug Gordon, who's #1 wedding photographer in the country several years in a row. I volunteer. I will shoot weddings for free for people that can't afford it so that they can have memories of their wedding. And this book called Capturing Love, I was studying how to shoot a gay wedding. So anyway, that's...
God, that gives me the willies.
Yeah, you probably don't understand, Phil shooting a gay wedding, but yes, because some people need to preserve those memories, and that's what photographers do.
By the way, I'm getting sick of. I gotta say this. I mean, look, I'm not homophobic in the least. Okay, ever. Nobody could accuse me of it. But every TV show, it seems now, there's some kind of gay scenario going on in that show.
It's like a requirement.
It's like a requirement,
Yeah, the Chinese child with a black and white family.
I was watching this show, his Dark Majesty or whatever it's called, on HBO, and there are two angels who they plant a kiss on each other, and I'm going, come on.
Angels.
If you've got to have two guys kissing on this show, find another two people. But two angels just doesn't work. Hey,
Alex.
Yeah.
Well, let me give you an interesting example that happened to Pam and myself.
Mm-hmm.
We had good friends, black friends, who we said we're going to go to a certain restaurant that we went to all the time, and they had never gone before, and we'll meet you at the restaurant. Well, they got there first. And so we normally got different nice seats, normal, great seats. They put them in the shittiest, lousiest place to sit in the whole thing.
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
5 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Hey, listen.
Yeah. And guess what? We just never went to that restaurant again.
There's the theme. Brian with a Y, you had something you wanted to say quickly?
I'll make it quick because I know you're running out of time. But the town I grew up in, until the civil rights movement, they could not sell a home to a black family. Okay?
Headlining?
Pittman, New Jersey. You can look it up.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that, as time goes on, we have grown since the civil rights movement, and we have to believe in capitalism in just a little bit.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I got to go because we're running out of time.
I love you, buddy.
I love
Thank
you too.
God bless you.
There's no Jack show.
Let me
You
just
want me to leave. There's no Jack show.
There's no Jack show tonight. There won't be a Jack show for about a month, I think.
No, why you got to leave?
But we will be playing an intersection right after this. But
is Jack okay?
He has some health issues.
He's not feeling too well. Okay.
Yeah.
Listen at the beginning of the show.
Yeah. But anyway, listen, I thank you, Phil. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you to Kevin, and thank you to Alan, and thank you to our good friend Charlie, and Brian with a Y, and Ray with a Y, and Brian Neary with an A. Thank you all. Why don't you give a big wave goodbye? I'll give a big wave goodbye at you, okay? There they go, ladies and gentlemen. That's our citizen panel. And Jack is not going to be here tonight. He won't be here for probably about anywhere from 3 weeks to a month, I'm told. Probably after the first of the year. So we're going to be playing some old Jack shows and whatever. Anyway, just wanted to let everybody know that. We'll see you again. When is it? Oh, tomorrow. Same time, same station in life. In the meantime, as always, if you see her, tell her I love her, okay? Good night, everybody. Have a nice night.